Welcome, everybody. We are here for the first stream ever of Pod on the Apex, your friendly neighborhood F1 live streaming channel and podcast, and whatever you want to call it. My name is Pratyush, and
Yeah, I'm Aniket this side, and we are probably some of the most enthusiastic F1 fans that you'll come across. So
yeah,
please, keep up to date with the channel, with the podcast. We are going to be streaming everywhere. We're going to be on all the podcast platforms as well. So as Pratyush said, this is our first ever podcast, and we are looking forward to reviewing, getting into all the F1 nitty-gritties throughout this entire 2025 season, starting with today and on the future podcasts as well. So stay locked in, and we look forward to delivering you some exciting content. So you can just sit back, relax, and either watch it while you're having your food, or while you're just traveling around, putting it on your radio player in a car.
yeah, totally. So, that's Pod on the Apex. We are basically two F1 crazy gearheads here, and so um, that's about us. So yeah, I think before we start, Aniket, we should tell the viewers, you know, how we got into F1, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, why don't you go first?
Yeah, so I got into F1 quite a long time back during the V10 era. So you're talking about the 2000s now, early 2000s. So when I was basically in like say seventh or eighth grade, I would say sixth or seventh grade. So that's when it was Michael Schumacher, Kimi Raikkonen, all these guys at the front fighting for the title, Ferrari McLaren days. So that's when my interest in F1 started. Just the sound of the cars, as well as the action, the frenetic action, and the fast pace. Cars going around track lap after lap is something that piqued my interest. It's not something people would say is exciting, but it's something F1 fans would be craving for whenever they see an F1 race and whenever they have to wait for the next F1 race. So that got my interest. And then I properly started watching, I would say, around 2005 season, which was the Kimi Raikkonen Fernando Alonso rivalry between the McLaren and the Renault. And at that time, Kimi Raikkonen was my favorite driver, and McLaren as a team attracted me the most because of their livery, as well as the black and the basically the silver arrow colors which they had, backed by the Mercedes-Benz engine. And then 2007, the certain Lewis Hamilton came into sport, and that's when things changed for me. And I've been a Lewis Hamilton fan all along up till then, till now. And I love to discuss about different things in the sport. Like it's not about just the drivers and the teams; it's about the different kinds of, the aerodynamic changes that happen in the car. What type of tracks we like to see on the calendar, and just everything about F1 is something I would love to talk about either casually or passively as we are doing now. So, uh, or passionately, I would say. So that's about me. I've been an F1 fan for a long time, so I'm just here to share my experience with you all. We're gonna be relating a few past experiences here and there, so stay tuned for those kind of popcorn bits. But now I'll hand it over to Pratyush on to give his journey on the sport.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, Aniket. Yeah, similar story for me. I started early 2000s. I would say maybe around 2001. I think 2001 is when I kind of started my foray into other sports beyond cricket. I started football, became a Manchester United fan, and then also started watching F1. I think, yeah, just Sunday afternoons in India, right? Sunday evenings rather. F1 is on, and I kind of just stumbled upon this, these races, right? And yeah, and I used to see this one guy called Michael Schumacher just kind of win races for fun, and I just liked how he drove, the aggression and just the attitude of him, right? He was always wanted to win, always wanted to win to the point that he would sometimes do questionable things. But yeah, as a kid, you don't know any better. But I was a huge fan of Michael, and of course Ferrari as a consequence. And then 2002, one of his legendary seasons when he kind of practically won every race he could. And then of course that also I think the rise of Kimi Raikkonen. So yeah, Kimi is again a very exciting driver. I think he was widely tipped to be like the next Michael, right?
Yeah,
At that point, this is of
yeah.
course before Lewis Hamilton came and Vettel had come, right? So yeah, I think a lot of F1 fans wonder, right, if Hamilton and Vettel didn't come to the scene, Kimi would probably be the next, like multiple title winning F1 driver. Too bad he only won a single title. But yeah, 2003 again was 2003 was a very close season, right? Like it went down to the wire between Kimi and Michael. I think it went to like the second last
The
race.
last race, yes.
Yeah, Schumacher had to come eighth, and he basically came eighth, right? And won the title. And then again, yeah, 2004 was another dominant season by Michael, right? It has, I think a lot of similarities to say the 2023 Verstappen season or, one of the Lewis seasons with Mercedes. Which one was that?
2020.
2020, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think that kind of cemented me as basically as a Ferrari fan. And then yeah, 2004 was the last time he won anything. 5 and 6, all the rule changes that F1 did in 2005 to basically kneecap Ferrari because they were so dominant for the past, I mean, five. I think more like it was 6, 7 years of Ferrari dominance, right? I mean, yeah, I know Mika Hakkinen won a couple of titles, but Ferrari was still pretty strong before the 5 titles of Schumacher as well. So yeah, I think 2005 we saw Alonso win those 2 titles in '05 and '06, and again two very dominant seasons. Like Alonso, this came out of nowhere. Like, do you remember, Aniket? Nobody was expecting, Fernando Alonso in like a dingy Renault to win 2 titles, right? Everybody talking
Yeah,
about, oh, Schumacher and, Montoya
Raikkonen.
and Kimi Raikkonen and all
Yeah,
these guys. And
yeah,
this Spaniard comes from nowhere and he just like sweeps 2 titles, right? And uh,
yeah,
completely took the F1 world by storm. And then, of
yeah.
course,
And that's when we thought we had another heir to the throne in Fernando Alonso now, because he
exactly.
was a double world champion at the age of what, 23, 24,
Yep, yep,
and he had a long career ahead of him, and he was going, switching teams to McLaren, who was, the better car throughout that
yeah.
part of the 2000s. So that was like, and now we know like he's made such poor decisions over time. So that's another podcast in itself. But yeah, go on, Pratyush. I think we can listen to more of your journey and then talk about
Yeah,
the
but
F1.
I guess it turns out neither Alonso or Kimi were the chosen heirs, right? Turned out to be a young
Yeah.
British driver called Lewis Hamilton.
Yes.
Uh, Yeah, but I think that's basically my F1 story according to F1 in the Schumacher days. So yeah, I've been a Ferrari fan ever since. But yeah, Ferrari has disappointed me ever since.
Maybe this is
um,
the season things turn finally.
yeah,
So
maybe this is the season, right?
we
Kimi
have a
Raikkonen is
young
still the
British
last
driver.
champion.
We have a
Yeah,
young
young
British
British.
driver joining the team.
Yep, yep. And we have a French team principal now as well. So uh,
Yep.
yeah. So I think that's kind of both our stories on how we got into F1. And then, yeah, ever since we both have been massive F1 fans, right? Followed pretty much every season since then. I did have a bit of a hangover once Schumacher retired in 2007. Didn't follow it that closely for a couple of years, but yeah, I kind of got back into it. I still remember 2009 was this like, yeah, man, I like totally random. This guy called Braun GP, and like, of course, Ross Braun was a legendary, engineer, but yeah, complete out of nowhere, Braun GP comes, takes the title, becomes Mercedes the next season. Schumacher comes back. I was like, yay, Schumacher is back, but yeah, it was not that good the second time. But yeah, we did see Nico Rosberg, and then later, of course, the uh, favorite man of Aniket, Lewis Hamilton, came into Mercedes, and as I say, the rest
Top
is
level.
history. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I think it was the 2014 rule changes, right, is when Mercedes simply became dominant for the
Yep.
next, what, 7 seasons?
6, 7 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 8 years, right? They won the constructors in 21 as well. So yeah, next 8 seasons were complete total domination of Mercedes. And then of course we got Red Bull, and yeah, so F1 always throws up crazy, insane storylines, and yeah, we are on the precipice of 2025, everyone, and it's going to be another exciting season, isn't it, Aniket? What do you
Yeah.
what are your hopes? What are your hopes for 2025? I mean, we all know you want Lewis Hamilton to win everything that's there, but apart from that, what's your hope for 2025? Apart from that,
I think not only me, but everyone hopes that 2025 begins just like how 2024 ended, where we had, say, four different constructors who would actually win a race.
right?
And we know that the rules aren't going to change much or have not changed much from last year.
Yeah,
I mean, teams will be trying different things, obviously. We did see McLaren officially launch their car on track to be the first team to do it.
yeah,
I did not go through the analysis of what differences they have on their car, but I'm sure they'll be having some differences compared to the 2024 car. So so we know that it's going to be kind of a level playing field between the top teams, and the midfield teams will try to get better as well. So we are hoping that we get one hell of a season because this is going to be the last rules cycle before we get another change in 26 with the new engines, the new everything.
right.
So we're hoping this is an exciting season. Obviously, as a Lewis Hamilton fan, I'm not like going to be biased saying Lewis Hamilton should be winning every race because Lewis Hamilton should be winning every race. But but, but I do wish to have an exciting season. I do want Ferrari as my new team now to be at the top, and I want the other teams also to be doing well and putting on a show for some of the most dedicated F1 fans, because we don't know what 2026 is going to bring with the rule changes. It's going to be an unknown. So we do hope this season ends like we've had no other season. I would wish we have 8 drivers competing for the World Drivers' Championship.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously that's a little far fetched, but I really hope there are multiple drivers doing that and breaking a stronghold now of Red Bull dominance that we've seen since 2022. Because now is the time where a Lando Norris or a Charles Leclerc can finally put their foot down and say, "This is the title that I'm coming for," before the rule cycles change. So excited to see that. Excited to see the different tracks we have on the calendar. We're going to be having, what, 24 races again this season,
yep.
I
Another
believe.
long season. Yeah,
Another long season ahead of us, and it's going to be starting out very soon with the official car launches next week.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's also the 75th season of F1, right? The first season was way back in 1951, and F1 has all obviously come a long way from that. Lot of rule changes, lot of regulation changes. Cars are much bigger, much heavier, but also much safer now. And I think F1, to celebrate its what do you call, platinum jubilee, I guess, 75 years. F1 is organizing the first of its kind. What's it, livery launch event? I guess I don't think teams are going to show the real cars this soon, but and McLaren kind of bamboozled them by revealing the car already. But yeah, F1 has kind of booked out the O2 Arena in London, and we're going to see all 10 teams with their drivers, team principals, staff, everybody launch the car at once. Tickets sold out like this, right? It was very, very quick. Obviously,
Yeah.
London is obviously a big F1 market, right?
Yep.
Of course. So, and obviously Europe is very close by, and the whole of the European continent is a big, big F1 market. So yeah, it's the tickets sold out very quickly. So yeah, that'll be very interesting to see what they do over there, right? Obviously, I think the details of the event are kind of still under wraps. All they've told is they'll show all 10 cars and 20 drivers and team principals and whatnot. So yeah, that will be a very exciting event to see. And yeah, I think for 2025, similar to Aniket, yeah, I hope we do see a lot of good racing, right?
Yep.
We typically see the end of the the end of a rules era you always see much more closer racing, right? Because teams are all kind of reaching that limit of those regulations, and everybody is kind of almost optimized to the hilt, right? We saw in 2021 when Mercedes and Red Bull kind of, you know, were neck and neck. Well,
Yeah.
obviously, I think to be more specific, it was Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton were neck and neck. Yeah, they would be like 5 seconds of each other, and then everybody's like 30 seconds behind them. So that was definitely a weird era when only two drivers, not even two teams, two
Yeah.
drivers optimized the heck out of it. But as we saw in 2024, we have 8 drivers who kind of, well, I guess we should say 7. Perez was
7.
nowhere. Yes. But yeah, we basically saw 4 cars, I mean, 4 teams rather, who kind of, were very close. We saw multiple race winners. How many winners did you see last year? Did you see 7? I guess Perez only guy didn't win a
Yeah.
race
I think
in the
7
top
race
4.
winners. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 race winners, and I think what? I think 6 of them won multiple or something like that, right?
Except for George, everyone on multiple races.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, George had a controversial win stolen at Spa, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's why Hamilton had 2 wins, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this season, yeah, I'll be very surprised if we see 8 drivers competing because obviously Lawson and Kimi Antonelli are rookies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, definitely we'll see 6, right?
We
The
hope
2
it's 6.
McLarens, 2 Ferraris, and the Merc and the Red Bull.
Hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, I also hope it's. I mean, obviously, I would love to see Ferrari win every race. I don't care who wins, as long as it's Ferrari winning. Give me a 2016 equivalent with Leclerc and Hamilton. I don't
Yeah.
care, but as long as Ferrari is winning. But yeah, I hope we do see some exciting racing. Yeah, I'm really excited to see, for example, what Oscar Piastri can do this year. Right? I think we saw last year, and yeah, I think Aniket would agree that Oscar Piastri definitely looked like the more promising driver at times last season compared to Lando, right? So I think they will be very, very neck and neck this year.
I think there will be neck and neck, and there should be no papaya rules again to enforce.
Oh,
That
yes.
shitty kind of whatever they do. So we hope they get like equal chances to win. And they did get. I think McLaren did a fairly decent job of handling the drivers last year. I mean, except for what happened in Brazil and I think Italy as well. Italy was where they messed up the most, on the start of the race. But
Right,
I
right.
mean, they learned they are world constructors champions now, so I'm sure that they have that experience now of handling two drivers, which they
Yeah.
probably did not have last year. So yeah, McLaren, like I mean, just a quick shout out to McLaren. They've turned their fortunes around so well from where they were, like say 5 seasons ago. So
Not even
just
5. Even if you see like 2 seasons ago, they
two
were
seasons
really
ago, yeah, they were
garbage.
bottom. I think they started 2023. I think the
Yeah,
bottom
at the
of the
bottom.
pile,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now
Nobody
they are
expected
world champions.
McLaren to be fighting for titles in 2024, right?
Yeah. So just kudos to them. I think again they're going to be at the front of the field and probably the favorite to win the constructors at least. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. I mean, probably not going to talk about drivers and teams in this episode. We're going to take it to the next episode. But
Yeah, yeah.
quick shout
We'll
out to
talk more
McLaren
about.
though.
Yeah, totally. I think we'll talk more about drivers and teams in the next episode. Obviously, we also have the big elephant
Yeah,
in the room of in a shape called Adrian Newey. We have to discuss as well, right? So yeah, we'll definitely talk about teams and drivers in very soon. Obviously, definitely before the season starts. But yeah, I think both of us alluded to rule changes over the years, right? So I think we should tell our viewers, even though it's 2025 is the last season of the current rules era, we still are going to have some rules changes this year, right? So let's quickly go over them. I think the first biggest rule change, which is a Aniket, is the removal of the fastest lap point, right?
yeah,
Obviously, a
and I
lot of
think it makes a lot
the
of sense.
yeah, totally. I think obviously a lot of the new F1 fans who came with Drive to Survive would not know this,
Yeah,
but the fastest lap point is not it's not a very old thing. It came in 2019. Uh, I think old F1 fans never really understood why it came in the first place, right?
yeah,
But yeah, I think this year once again we have no fastest lap point.
And I'm happy for
Yeah,
that rule change. I think that's probably the best rule change they've had in a few years and so. And Pratyush, while you bring up the screen on the other rules, maybe I'm talking about why it's a big change because there are teams like AlphaTauri or Visa Cash App who strategically have been told to go and do the fastest lap on the
yep,
last lap of the race to take away a point from their main contenders. That is the
yeah,
main
yeah.
reason why I don't want a fastest lap point anymore.
Daniel
And just for the
Ricciardo
sake,
last year, right?
and just for the sake, it just kind of misrepresents the entire thing, wherein if a new F1 fan comes and watches the leaderboards and finds out the fastest lap is by say was is by a Daniel Ricciardo who's in 15th place, then that doesn't mean he's the fastest driver in the race. It means that he put on a faster tire at the end of the stint on his last lap probably. So it just kind of misrepresents everything. And yeah, I'm glad it's gone now. I think that we are back into normalcy where the fastest teams deserve the will get the deserving points.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good point, right? I think, yeah, if you're talking about like what Daniel Ricciardo or uh, Visa Cash App RB, my God, that was a mouthful.
Yeah,
I think they're getting rid of that name this year.
they are. They are.
Supposedly just going to be RB. But yeah, I mean, whatever that I think. Yeah, I think more than that, the rule change I want to see, which obviously is not happening this year, is can we get rid of B teams? Can you just have one team per ownership, right? Why does one team on the grid get to have two teams and four drivers, right? It's such a
Yep.
scam, man. It's such a scam.
And that's the question we need to raise, or team principals need to raise to FI as to why that's happening still. Because we know
Yeah,
that that's going to
exactly.
take away the element. We saw in 2021 as well, whenever Lewis was battling Max and we saw like a random peer
Yeah,
captain
you
forward the pits and slow him down, or
yeah, I like a
so
wild Yuki Tsunoda out of nowhere.
that happens quite a bit. And I feel for Alpha Tauri as a team or whatever they call Red
Yeah.
Racing Bulls. I feel for them as a team because they should not be put on the spot where they're always supposed to help the Red Bull workforce,
Yeah,
right?
and as a consequence, they can never win, right? They're
Yeah,
always secondary team, always a B team, always have to play second fiddle to Red Bull. Like, come on, Red Bull is strong enough on their own. They don't need a B team to win
yeah.
races, right?
That's the reason why we want an Andretti or someone else to buy that team if possible,
Right.
so they can be an independent team once again.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, I think the next big rule change actually. Let me get to this one. Yeah, I think aero changes. No more flexi wings. No more whatever crap McLaren was pulling last year. Right?
Yeah,
Remember Baku, Aniket, the what McLaren was pulling. Why don't you tell our viewers what McLaren was doing in Baku last year?
yeah. While our podcast listeners probably will not be able to see what's on the screen here, we want to talk about what this aero change is basically. Uh, so what McLaren, and this was a random guy on X who put this video. Okay, it was not even the FI investigating it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What what this random guy did through his F1, what is it called? I don't F1 season review, some F1 season pass
Yeah,
stream is basically check the onboard of the rear of from the McLaren, and then he found a footage of this flapping rear wing, which is probably helping it on straights, giving it the car a better acceleration. And at that time, there was no other car who was able to get that rear wing to flap so much.
yeah,
To what we saw on the McLaren. So this video went viral, got picked up by the FIA after it reached probably like some million views. And then the FIA enforced a crackdown on the wing, and McLaren was forced to change the design from I think the next or the subsequent race after that.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that people said did hinder some of their speed for the couple of races which they were underperforming. And now the FIA has just gone on to remove anything like that. So
Yeah,
I
they definitely tighten the restrictions. And
yeah.
yeah, actually, Aniket, the reason that random Twitter guy investigated was because Oscar Piastri was leading the race, and who was behind him in number two? I can't recollect now, but who
I
was
think there was
behind
a
him?
Ferrari behind him.
Yeah,
Carlos Sainz was behind him probably.
right. Yeah, probably. But who was behind him couldn't catch him even with DRS, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what kind of tip tip this guy off. He was probably another crazy Ferrari fan. He's like, hey, why can't Ferrari overtake, right? But instead of being a normal Tifosi fan saying, the car is a truck, it's slow, he actually went, goes to the video and like, holy shit, what is this car doing here?
Struck
Yeah.
gold basically.
Yeah, struck gold. You basically see this rear wing opening up by like small amounts, effectively giving like a mini DRS, right? Which is what even the FIA calls it mini DRS now. And I think what the FIA has basically said in their directive is that, obviously wings flex and all that, we understand, but they kind of placed restrictions on how much a wing can flex. Right, so kind of seal off such loopholes, and I think they also place similar restrictions on the front wing as well. So McLaren is also having this I think flexi front wings or something they called it, but which they were using advantage to gain an aerodynamic advantage. They were using it, so I think that has also been made stricter, so we won't have any of those, well, until our team kind of finds a loophole in some other way.
I'm
Which
sure
is the
there'll be
beauty
a
of
team.
F1, right? Which is the
Exactly.
beauty of F1.
And that's simply the sad part, right? When a team innovates and it gets taken away, like how we saw with the Mercedes. I forgot the steering wheel. I forgot what it was called. The dash system.
Driver
Yeah,
assisted steering.
it was
Man,
such a
okay.
cool and clever idea,
I'm no
and
Mercedes fan, but that shit was epic, man. That idea
I
was
know.
epic.
And that's why it feels sad when you see something like this, immediately get stripped from the teams. But
Yeah,
it's the FI. They want everyone to be on a kind of a level playing field at this point
yeah,
because they want more tighter racing. So I
right.
understand it.
Or even remember 2009 in Braun GP, they had this amazing double diffuser concept.
Double
All the
diffuser.
teams raised a hell over it, and mid season it got banned.
Yep.
And then Braun never won a race after that.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's aerodynamic changes. We're also going to the also this year we're going to see tweaks to qualifying. I think some of our viewers would remember last year when, which race was that? I think it was Brazil, when it was like just raining like crazy and they're very worried
Yeah.
if they could get
The red
qualifying
flag
done or
thing.
not. Yeah. It was just raining so much, qualifying couldn't happen or happened very
Yeah.
late, right? Was it Brazil where the qualifying happened in the morning of the race?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think this year we're going to get some more clarity that, well, at least Brazil we did have qualifying, but nobody knew what would happen if qualifying could not happen. Right, there was no clarity. So I think from this year, the FIA said that if qualifying gets cancelled, the grid will be based on drivers' championship classification,
Yep.
which will be the same thing for sprint qualifying as well. And yeah, if it is the first race of the season, they say that the stewards will decide the grid order. Probably they'll
Yep.
use previous year's classifications or something
Previous
like
race
that.
classification. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but they not said that, they said stewards discretion, so I'm guessing stewards will pick something like that. But yeah, I think this is a good change, right, Aniket?
Yeah,
For the rare
I think
cases we need it.
we didn't have clarity on this. It's kind of something we thought that was always there in the FI rule
Right.
books, but nobody knew it was there or not. So it's
Yeah,
good
yeah.
that the FI has come out, clarified this, so there's a sense of peace among some of
Yeah.
us who always wonder what happens when qualifying doesn't happen in case of torrential weather.
Right. And actually surprised it took them this long to add it, because I remember, I've been seeing for F1 for more than 20 years, and
Yeah.
I remember quite a few qualifying sessions that happen on like the Sunday morning, right? And last minute. And I'm surprised that the FI never thought, oh, what if that Sunday morning got cancelled as well? What do we do then, right? I guess it took them long enough took them 75 years
I
of
think
F1 to think.
Brazil was quite a close encounter for them to come up. I basically clarify or put it out
Yeah.
on this rule.
Yeah. Well, another big change that we're going to see this year is so driver cooling systems. With F1 racing more and more in the Middle East, and drivers obviously complaining about the heat and the dehydration. I think a couple of years ago, something when Valtteri Bottas or Kimi Raikkonen, somebody's drink delivery system got spoiled, and they basically drove the whole race without a drink and basically
Hmm.
fainted at the end, right? Or close to fainting. So I
Yep.
think this year, finally, the FIA says that if temperatures are 31 degrees Celsius or above at any during a sprint or Grand Prix or anything, um, FIA will declare a heat hazard. And basically, what this means is that one thing is the car's weight limit gets increased by 5 kilos, and this is basically to allow the teams to fit in another cooling system. Yeah, I saw these details somewhere else. I can't recollect now. But it's basically, I think they modify the clothes to kind of send in some additional cooling liquid. And the I think F1 has partnered with a company that does this kind of cooling kind of clothes. So basically, the clothes have some tubing in them, right? And teams can fit there's like a set of liquids that have been defined, which can flow through the shirts and basically through clothes of the drivers,
Hmm.
which basically kind of reduce the heat on the skin and all such things. So basically to keep the driver cool. So instead of just sure they'll still drink their water or their drink or whatever, but there's another way to kind of cool the driver down because the cockpit is freaking hot all the time, right? It's basically a furnace inside, and if you're racing in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, it gets really hot.
Yep.
So yeah, so in order to fit this cooling system, and obviously because to wear these special clothes, it's going to be a 5 kilo increment in the weight allocation for the car. So it's going to be the fireproof shirt. Yeah, that's what it says here. Yeah, it's going to be fireproof shirt that allows a fluid to be pumped around a series of tubes. So it includes a pump, a plumbing, and some thermal store, some heat exchanger, and all of that. So I think this is a good move. I mean, obviously we can't stop F1 from racing in the Middle East, but yeah, as long as they
Yep.
don't kill the drivers potentially.
Yeah, I think that's now the new region which gets them the most amount of money. So
Right.
makes sense. I think Pratyush should just explain everything. So I don't have really much to add on this. But yeah, as
Yeah.
long as it keeps the F1 drivers comfortable.
Right. Yeah, I think the other rule changes are around testing of previous cars and all that. I think, and also I think this year teams have to double the amount of rookie testing, like we saw Kimi Anthony do last year. So I think this could be a good move to get more, to give more drivers a taste of F1, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's basically all the rule changes that we have this year. And yeah, I think there are also some changes for end of season testing as well.
I think they did reduce in season or whatever the preseason testing mileage as well. So
Okay,
they
right.
did reduce that. So that's the reason why Lewis is not, not going to get a little more than what he could have got, say, last season.
Right,
And
right.
I think, ironically, Ferrari pushed for that last season when Max Verstappen was doing some stuff in between the season, testing
Yeah.
out, and then Ferrari, quickly called up the FI and said, no, 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 that should not be allowed. Then the FI changed the rules. but but
It's
yeah,
it's really it's really funny Ferrari complained about that because before we had all these regulations on testing, Ferrari is the only team that has a dedicated track at their factory,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
They have an F1 quality track at their factory. So all through
yeah,
the 2000s, or even before the 2010s, when F1 clamped down with more strict testing rules, uh,
yep,
every winter, all the teams would pay rent to some track to use their track for testing of their upcoming car. And Ferrari will be like, yeah, we have our own track at our factory. We don't need to go anywhere. We don't need to pay rent to anyone. We will just do it what we want, right? Uh,
uh-huh.
so it's very funny that Ferrari complained to the FIA about Max Verstappen. Like, you guys did this for 50 years. What are you crying about?
Yeah. They didn't want Red Bull to get any more advantage because they were closing them down in the championship. So that's the reason.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I think yeah, it's going to be an exciting season, right? And Yeah, we also have a lot of rookies, which we'll talk about in upcoming episodes. But yeah, we have I think what 6 rookies. If you the loose definition of a rookie, basically have 6 rookies this year.
Yep.
So
Basically, the
yeah,
first full F1 seasons, and
yeah,
we'll see how many of them actually complete the entire season and who does not. So we'll keep a close eye on that because
yeah,
we do
yeah,
have some speculation on some things that might happen in a few teams.
yeah,
So we will get to know that, and I think this has been a very good first episode, Pratyush.
yeah. Yes, Aniket, totally. So yeah, I think we'll wrap up here, and we'll be back next week, right? I think it should be after the O2 event in London.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll have some probably have some scoops from there, and
And we
yeah,
are still in the midst of deciding regular scheduling, programming, kind of a episodic television for or an episodic show for y'all. We are still waiting. Me and producer are still deciding on that. So once that is fixed, we'll put it out on all our platforms.
yeah,
And yeah, so you can just whenever we go live, you are there to see us, on our platforms.
yeah, totally. And yeah, before we wrap, yeah, when we go live, as of now, we're going to go live on Twitch, and after we stream on Twitch, we're going to upload the episode to YouTube. We're going to put it on podcasts, so you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. I think a lot of podcasts I've just get it from the Apple feed. So once it goes on Apple Podcasts, it should be available everywhere. And then obviously you will see also maybe you'll try to put some clips on the socials as well, like Instagram and YouTube Shorts, so you can yeah, share with your friends. Definitely follow us on all the channels. Our YouTube description will have all the links. Twitch profile already has all the links, so make sure to subscribe everywhere. And
Yeah, we're gonna be doing this regularly, so we just want your support.
yeah,
Help us get this, to all the different audiences. Share with your friends, and we're looking to make this big. Starting with one small step today.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Definitely tell all your F1 crazy fans, friends like us, to come join us. We are called Pod on the Apex.
And we'll see you around on the Apex next week.
Yes, we'll see you next week. So that's Aniket and I signing off. Good night, everybody.